Welcome everybody to Ringsiders Wrestling. As always, I'm Callum McInnes. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, the man behind the music of AEW. You've definitely heard some of his themes. You've probably got them still stuck in your head. I know I do from the last few months of Dynamite. I get so many of the themes stuck in my head. They're part of my gym playlist. Everybody, welcome Mikey Ruckus.
How's it going?
Oh, great. Thank you, Mikey. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. This is an interview I've been looking forward to for a while. Since we reached out and you said you'd be up for coming on the show. We usually speak to in-ring wrestlers, but I always find it interesting to speak to people who have a different role in the business, such as yourself. You're a music producer, and I've always been interested in the process of music creation for wrestling. Going back to Jim Johnston, for example, he's one of the greats of producing music. And when I found out that the person doing all the AEW themes was the same person, I was like, we need to talk to that guy. So how has it been for you the last few, well, I say the last few months, it's coming on to a year now, I believe. How has it been for you joining AEW as the music production?
It's been really amazing. I've been doing music, freelance, theme music, in and around mixed martial arts and independent pro wrestling for, I'd say, from 2010 to like 2018, so about 8 years. And then with the announcement of AEW in January 2019, I felt like it was my time to reach for an opportunity like that, and everything just happened to fall into place. So I joined, and I actually started work on some of the themes in April of 2019, officially signed with AEW in May, and it's been lightning speed since then. So, I mean, we're about 18 months in now, somewhere around there, and I've created upwards of 80 or 90 themes, have done some ancillary stuff, some promo packages and things like that, and just I handle a lot of administrative stuff back behind the scenes in regards to the music and the publishing and some of those things of that sort. So it's fairly hectic, but I love every minute of it. Some days we're in here 10, 12 hours a day, upwards of 16 hours in a day. Sometimes I do 7 days a week, depending on the schedule and the workload. And everything is lightning speed. So we knock one out and then we move on to the next and move on to the next. So every morning when I walk into my office, I have a list of things that I have to get taken care of for that day.
I've heard you have quite a quick turnover for themes. Like it might be, they come in and go, oh, we need a theme. And you're like, when for? And tonight.
Yeah, we've had a few situations like that. The average is probably a couple of days. I try not to linger too much on one particular project. I try, the rest of the team moves at such a high pace, and you hear things like that in the sports world. When kids are playing college baseball or college basketball or football, and then they go into the major leagues, and the speed is so much different. There's such a huge jump in the speed from doing freelance independent music to producing music for a weekly television show that's live on cable TV every week. Like you have to have there has to be deliverables. It has to be consistent. It has to happen all the time. There's no late turning in. There's no, oh, I'm going to get to it tomorrow. Like you have to be on that consistent grind and that consistent delivery of top quality.
Sure, I can imagine. And when you say like you have all these themes that you've done 90 so far, which is an incredible amount in such a short time. Do you ever make the themes before and then give them to a wrestler, or is it always a custom job for each wrestler that you produce one for?
So yeah, as of right now, everything that we have for contracted AEW talent that I've written has been from scratch. In the very beginning, we had a couple of instances where it was like very last minute that I had a couple of things from prior that we pitched over just to have it. Mm-hmm. But then, it got to a point where we started incorporating independent music, unsigned bands to get some exposure and get some of that. And then we transitioned to library music for talent that's coming in as extras or enhancement talent. So they get library music. So I work on picking a theme that matches what they've used in the indies, or once they're signed, then we create a track for them from scratch. So I always try to be original. I always try to come out of the gate and get the inside and get a look at what the talent is thinking of in terms of how they want their character to be presented on TV.
It's such an important part of a wrestler's identity, isn't it? A good entrance theme. It can either make or break a career sometimes. Like some wrestlers, the first thing you think of is their entrance theme, especially when it comes to like Stone Cold Steve Austin with the glass shatters. It's such an integral part of the character. So when you're doing that process for somebody like Orange Cassidy, for example, whose whole character is, I say character, it's probably not, whose whole thing is he doesn't care, he's very laid back. How would you come up with a theme for Orange Cassidy, for example? Did you speak with the talent and see what you can come up with, or did you have anything in mind for him?
Yeah, so in very rare cases, I have things in mind. And a lot of times, the only time I don't have direct communication with talent is if they're brand new coming in, or if the time constraint just doesn't allow for it. With Orange Cassidy, and all of these themes that I've created have different stories. Every single one of them has a different story, and they're all unique unto themselves. With Orange's case, we had actually created a theme for him at Revolution. He was going to wrestle Pac, and just before we went the next day, like I had worked on his theme that night, the night before I flew out to Revolution. I worked on his theme and I worked on Jake Hager's theme. It came up last minute, like Jake's going to need a theme. Something was going on with some music he was trying to get together and it didn't work out. So we needed to so I worked overnight to like maybe 3 or 4 the next morning. I got an hour of sleep. I had everything packed and I left. But in talking with him originally, we were going to go for a twist on what he used in the Indies. He used Jefferson Starship Jane. Yeah. But as we got to creating more, the more vibe he started leaning into was more of like a Southern rock blues, like Gary Clark Jr. style. So we ended up holding off on that theme for Revolution because he was still paired with the Best Friends. So when it came time for him to have his own theme song, it was actually a collaborative process between myself, Orange, and Chris Jericho. So the three of us, we texted back and forth, and they were really looking for that Gary Clark Jr. dirty blues type style of music, as opposed to the Starship. And Orange he was very deliberate in the style that he wanted. And I know a lot of times it's hard for fans to grasp when a talent wants to change things up. But I always say just embrace the change. Especially with All Elite Wrestling and their talent. When they come out to a theme, it's a theme that they want. It's a theme that they know that this is the direction that they're going with their character. Yeah. So we kind of settled on that. We had pitched a few different ideas, and we built on it. And I think we had it ready like maybe the day before we aired it. So it maybe 3 or 4 days. It was over the weekend, and then leading into Dynamite that following Wednesday.
So again, like quite a process for creating Orange Cassidy's theme. Even input from Chris Jericho as well. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was actually a surprise because he just texted me out of nowhere. He was like, "Hey, this is Jericho," and I kind of, it's funny. I'm by myself and I'm looking at my phone and I'm looking around at either side. Does somebody like? Like Chris Jericho, and I'm pointing at my phone like Chris Jericho's texting me right now, and nobody's around. I'm just kind of sitting there like, what is happening?
Quite surreal.
Yeah. So we got to conversating back and forth, and I said, I know that we have a previous theme. He's like, yeah, but Jim and I have been talking, and Tony and I have been talking, and we want to try something new. So what do you think you can come up with? And that's like in the style of like Gary Clark Jr. I was like, I got you. Let's do it. So, and that's the vibe that I always have, no matter what style, no matter what idea they have, I'm ready to jump right into it and see what we can make.
That's awesome. What I find interesting is you say you've been doing music production on the Indies as well prior to AEW. So have you always been a wrestling fan, or did you like start doing music for independent wrestlers and then got into it, or because it seems like you've been a fan you must have been a fan your whole life to want to get into wrestling music production.
Sure. I was a huge wrestling fan from my childhood. I can, and my mom was a big wrestling fan too. And I can remember my first image that I remember of professional wrestling was Jimmy Superfly Snuka on the top rope and, making his splash off of the top. That's the very first image that I remember. We used to watch WWF, like the Saturday night's main event. We used to watch the Tuesday night championship wrestling. And then being in Virginia, we had NWA and we had, that whole thing on Saturday afternoons. And I really got into all of it. We loved it. I got away from wrestling right around the mid 2000s. And I had kind of dove headfirst into mixed martial arts, following the UFC and things like that. And right around 2010 is when I decided I had already kind of been doing music a little bit on the side myself, just as a hobby. And out of the need of like to supplement my income, I just decided I'm going to write entrance music for fighters. So I started really small on the independent and the regional scene for mixed martial arts fighters, amateur fighters, kind of the guys that are not known, and just kind of built my foundation there. And then about a year and a half in, I had my music playing in the UFC, and then it grew up until about 2016 when everything kind of started to retract back in the MMA scene. I noticed that the professional wrestling scene on the indies had exploded. And it's like the wrestlers were taking their brands into their own hands and going from place to place. And I said, maybe this is my time to jump into that. It was always something that I wanted to get into, but I didn't realize that the indie scene had flourished as it did. So between 2016 and early 2019, I ended up creating like over 250 entrance themes for indie wrestlers all over the US and in the UK. Revolution Pro Wrestling did a bunch for them. And I just stayed busy, and it got to one point where, and this whole time I'm working a full-time job in retail. So right. I'm running like a retail store. I got 30 employees that report to me, working 60 hours a week in my store, and then working every evening in my office, getting that work done. So I had a pretty good routine down right before I signed with AEW.
Is there any difference between doing a theme for an MMA fighter and a professional wrestler? Like, it seems like it would be quite similar, but MMA fighters don't really have the characters of a wrestler.
Yeah, it's actually, they're two completely different things. Like, you can only do but so much within MMA because there's so much realism there. Like, these are people that are going in and they're going in to hurt each other. So a lot of fighters that I spoke with wanted to talk about, and in their songs, they wanted to talk specifically about why they were fighting. I've had some tell me that they were fighting in Kuwait or Afghanistan, and they get hit by shrapnel and they die on the operating table, and they wake up and they realize they want to fight, so they end up becoming a fighter. So those are really serious things to talk about in a song, as opposed to with professional wrestling. The whole storybook is open, and there's different genres, and there's different stories, and there's some realism, and then there's some fiction involved, and it's just about being able to have a huge palette to paint with, and every single theme is different, and every single idea and every single story is different. So like the gates are open, and nothing is off limits when it comes to professional wrestling themes.
Yeah, that's what I was imagined it would be like. Like with wrestlers, you've got a character to go off, whereas with MMA fighters, it's like you said, they're in there to hate each other. I'd imagine all of the MMA themes would sound somewhat similar, all quite brutal.
Basically rock and a lot of hip hop and dubstep stuff, but the eclectic nature of professional wrestling and the characters it brings and the stories it brings, I mean, it's a completely different world.
Obviously, going back to like before you even started doing the themes for the independent wrestlers and the fighters, how did you actually get started in music production?
Well, I had always dabbled, I always dabbled, on my own side and at home, playing guitar and doing things like that and trying to do little albums and stuff. And it just, out of nowhere, I just made the decision, this is what I want to do. And I had a little rinky-dink program to record, and I was not good at all. And I don't like I look back at some of the stuff I did when I very first got started, and I was like, I don't know how anybody actually paid me to do that. And it's just, it's trial and error, and it's a long process. And you can even see you can see a difference between what I was making when I first started with AEW compared to what I'm making now. It's just a growth process. So I mean, from the very beginning, it was all about I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to figure out how to do it along the way. I might screw up, I might mess up, I might put out some garbage, but in the process, I'm going to try to take something from every single project that I do and learn new techniques and always study and always listen and try to find best practices and then apply them just to be better.
In that case, do you feel like after all, the journey you've been on so far, doing all these themes for UFC, for independent wrestlers, do you feel like AEW is the place where like that you're happy and you can see yourself being here for like quite a long time? Is AEW the dream job?
1,000%, and that's not blowing smoke. The camaraderie that this team has, the willingness for everyone to work together, it's unlike anything I've ever experienced. And it's not lip service, it's not wordplay. I mean, it's legitimate. And every now and then when I do travel to a Dynamite or to a pay-per-view and I get to see everybody again, like, that hasn't changed. Everybody wants to be as good as they can, and everybody wants to help everybody else be as the best that they can. And I love a team like that. And I was even talking with Tony the other night, and I said, I need to know what I need to do to be better. And I creatives are always their own worst critic, and they always kind of obsess over what they can do to be better. And Tony was just like, you're doing great, man. And if there's anything that I need changed, I'll let you know. I was like, well, okay. So
I feel your pain. Yeah.
Where he and I talk sometimes. We've got the process where sometimes I'll talk with the EVPs, and then sometimes I'll talk directly with the talent, depending on whether it's a debut or if it's a change up or somebody's going in a different direction. And we move at lightning speed.
How many AEW shows have you managed to catch then so far? Like you said, you've managed to go to a few Dynamites, but have you managed to go to any of the pay-per-views?
Yeah, I went to Revolution in February, and every now and then I'll take a trip down to a Dynamite or go to when we were touring. I think I was in Charlotte, and I went to a few others like DC for the opening because I live in Virginia, so DC is only 2.5 hours away from me. So that debut Dynamite show, I had to be there. But with the way things happen, and this is professional wrestling, things change on the fly. Yeah. So it's better for me to be, I have my home office. I have my office at home. It's better for me to be home in case I get that call that something needs to be done. I'll give you an example. So for Miro's debut this last week or the week before, and even Matt Seidel's debut for All Out, I got the call the night before. It wouldn't have worked if I was in Jacksonville because all of my gear was at home. So I got the call Friday night about Miro. I got started on that. And then 2 hours into that, I got the call about Matt Seidel. So I had to change gears, jump on that song, get that done by the next morning for the show that night. And then I had Miro's track ready by Monday.
It must be hard when you're doing 2 tracks at once to get out of the mindset of making a theme for one wrestler to go into making one for another as well, just like that.
Well, sometimes it used to be, I used to have a lot of issues with it, but I've learned over the years, you just learn a workflow. You learn how to turn the switch on and turn the switch off. Before I get into my office every morning, and sometimes I'll be in here 7 days a week. The night before I go to sleep, I know exactly what I have to do the next day. There's never been a time that I've walked in and said, okay, what am I going to do today? Like, I already know. And even by the end of the day, even what I've been working on that day, I'll have more things added that I have to take care of. So you just have to learn to turn the switch on, and it's all a decision-making process. There's no second guessing. You find your lane, you cultivate a sound or a riff or something like that. Try to turn it into something as quickly as possible, send it out for a sample review, get your adjustments and your feedback from the talent, and work on it some more, send it back out. And while they're listening to that, I've already started on the next one for somebody else while the other person's listening. So I'm waiting for their feedback. By the time they give me their feedback, I've already sent out the other track to the other talent. So it's all a cycle. And I've learned to kind of fall right into that flow. And next thing you know, like 7-8 hours have gone by and I've been sitting in the same seat. Didn't even realize that, it's been 8 or 9 hours for that day.
What's your personal favorite theme that you've made? Which one are you the most proud of?
So there's a couple. The first one for sure is going to be Jurassic Express.
Mm.
When that team first got together, this was before we even had a name for them. They were trying to figure out what they were going to name them. I had actually pitched to the EVPs that we needed some sort of adventurous type music. It has to be like the Avengers or Jurassic Park or something along those lines. So they said, have at it. Let's see what you can come up with. So that I built that from scratch with my own ideas, and they ended up loving it. And it was really cool because it was still in the early stages where they were still getting to know me. I'm not from the wrestling industry, so they took a chance on me. And for them to say, we trust you, go for it. It was a really cool moment creating that theme. And then the other one for sure would be the Butcher and the Blade. I really wanted to take that one to a different direction. I had a 3-way text with the Butcher and the Blade, and the three of us were talking, and I had put a few riffs together. They picked a riff that they wanted to hear on TV. So you'll hear that for the first minute and a half. And I was like, this is something special. Let me turn this into some sort of a chaotic medley of sorts. And it was super technical. And I love it. Even to this day, when I want to warm up or just jam on the guitar, I'll turn that one on and play along with it. So yeah, those are my two favorites.
Like I said in the intro, the half my gym playlist is AEW themes now. As soon as they're released, I add them to my playlist because there's some which just really work for when you're at the gym. Like the Best Friends theme, for example, is surprisingly one of my gym songs. Like for some reason, just gets me pumped. So that's, as a fan, I absolutely love the Best Friends theme because I think it just works so well, especially with the entrance video. It's just ridiculous and stupid, kind of like the Best Friends. It's great. But like you said, with the Jurassic Express, you wanted it to be like an adventure theme. I completely hear that. Like, it's like the intro to a TV show, like called the Jurassic Express. And was that the kind of thing you were going for?
Absolutely. And when I saw them, the thing with me is I don't just look and watch the show anymore as a fan. I used to watch and just get oohed and awed by high spots and everything like that. But now, being in the spot that I'm in, I look at the crowd's reaction. I look at how the crowd responds to the talent themselves, not just when the music is hitting, but when they're there. And with them, especially with Jungle Boy Luchasaurus in the very beginning, people looked at them and it was just pure joy on their face, pure happiness. And they were just really excited to see him. It was almost like an attraction. So we wanted to have a big sound to kind of complement that attraction. You know what I mean? So yeah. I was really happy in the end with that one.
It sounds like you formed some good relationships with the wrestlers. You have to work quite closely with them to understand their characters and produce the music. Do you think there's an advantage for you working solo with the wrestlers opposed to, say, like if AEW works with a group of musicians? Do you think you've got a benefit that you're working so closely on your own with them?
I can't say if it would be good or bad. It would just be different.
Yeah.
I know with me personally and the workflow that I've developed, it's really good because I've tried to commission outside work on themes before, and I have people hit me up literally every day wanting to work and wanting to try something out and wanting to do this and wanting their song to be played. And there's been times where I've tried to commission people to work and they just can't deliver in the time frame necessary. And and they all tell me the same thing. Oh, I'm the guy, I'm your guy. And then when it comes time, you end up having to wait. So it's very rare to find those talents that can deliver on a like super quick notice. So with me, I understand the speed and I understand my own flow. So being able to with them directly and then just jump right on it, I don't have to book studio time. I don't have to go and to a person's house. I have everything here. So I can walk upstairs in my boxer shorts if I want to and work on my music. You know what I mean? And just do what has to get done, or do what needs to be done to get it done quickly.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I'm a freelance graphic designer, and I'm freelance for that exact same reason. I have to go to the beat of my own drum. Like I like to have my own organization, my own plans to do things, and I'll get everything done. But as soon as I do it for another company, for some reason, I just can't do it. I don't know why, but I much prefer freelancing and not working as part of a team. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I do get you as a creative, like the benefit of, I know you're working with AEW, but you're still working solo, and it sounds like that's just been one of the best parts of, or one of the low key best parts of AEW so far is everyone says how good the music is in AEW for the pay per views, for the wrestlers. I haven't ever heard any complaints about the music. Like sometimes in other promotions, you might hear, oh, this theme doesn't fit that wrestler. I've never heard that in AEW. And I think that's testament to
You're
how
a
good
rare one
you're
if
doing.
that's the case. If you haven't heard that, you're a rare breed because I hear it every day, but it's all good.
Dude, I've I've got I'm on wrestling Twitter every day, which is one of the most toxic places to be. But
Sure.
but yeah, we must follow different crowds if that's the case. But from the most
Yeah.
part, all I've ever seen is good stuff.
Yeah, I can say that, of course, it's always about opinion. A lot of it comes down to how fans have been programmed to hear certain things over time, and it may not be for everybody. A certain song may not be for everybody. A certain fan may have this image of this wrestler and not want anything else to teach to change or evolve about that character because that character is special to them. Meanwhile, they don't realize that that person who is the channel and the I'm trying to find I'm grasping at the word, the person who's the vessel of that character
Yeah,
is wanting to evolve and tell a different story. So it just sometimes those things take time. When you get a new theme song and there's this big shock and don't ever play that song again. And sometimes it just takes time to develop and understand what the talent is trying to say and what the story that's being told as that comes across. So yeah, I mean, I enjoy doing it. It was an adjustment for me at first. Just because people were expecting one thing in the very beginning. And then I learned that, you know what, my team believes in me. So I'm going to believe in myself, stop beating myself up, just keep doing what you're going to do and just learn. And that's all I try to do is learn and get better every single day and try to make sure that everything I record today is better than what I made yesterday.
absolutely. And like you said, you've got, if Tony Khan is impressed with what you're doing, that's the main thing, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
But before we start to wrap up, Mikey, I'd love to know, is there anything that you're excited about that you're working on at the moment that you could share with us?
Funny enough, everybody asks me that, and I can never really divulge in anything.
I didn't think
Anything
you were guilty.
I'm working on a lot of stuff right now, like a lot of stuff, but I can't really talk about it. I usually don't talk about it until after it's out there. So after it's out there, great, we'll chat it up. Or if it's kind of been put out, I'll give you an example. Like with Warhorse, everybody knew Warhorse was coming because AEW announced that Warhorse was coming.
Yeah.
We actually had his theme done before they even announced that he was coming. It was one of those rare things where I was able to kind of talk to him before they made the announcement. So when they made the announcement, people started asking, hey, did you do his music? And I kind of played it up, maybe not, maybe I did. And then as we got closer, yeah, like, of course. In certain situations, like with Miro, where nobody knew that Miro was going to be the best man, you have to stay like super quiet on that stuff. And I'm totally fine with that because I don't want to rob the fans of those surprises. So, but there's a lot of surprises that are happening over the next 12 months. We did drop the AEW Lost Themes album yesterday. That's a collection of themes that some of the first themes, like for Sammy and Jungle Boy, before their themes got changed up. Some of the one-offs, like for Priscilla Kelly. We actually had a theme on there, an alternate theme for Private Party when we were in process of creating a new theme for them. And then just some ancillary stuff that people have been asking for over time. We put those together, and then I've started a new series on our SoundCloud page of where I'm taking the themes and converting them to 8-bit. So what it would sound like if we were
That's
playing
cool.
Nintendo, and just something to kind of have some fun. And I'm here and I'm committed to creating new ways for the fans to consume the AEW themes. This is not traditional listening anymore. It's not about just putting a theme song out and just throwing it out there. I want to be able to do remixes and mashups and collaborations, and who knows, you may even see some of the AEW talent doing some covers and stuff like it, cover songs of their favorite tunes. And all of these things are going to lead to bigger things later on down the line, and I can't say what it is, but it's all about having fun.
It's probably safer to assume that you're just always working on something. Like, you might not be able to tell us what you're working on, but you're always working on something.
Every single day.
Well, before we wrap up then, Mikey, one last question. Who is your favorite talent in AEW?
Man, that's a great question. And I don't want to say that I have favorites, because I smile every single time I see every single one of them in the ring. Like, it's almost like, and they stress me out every time they hit the ropes, like they're going to climb and do a high spot. Cause it's like, I don't watch as a fan anymore. It's like, it's my damn kids are stressing me out. Like, I don't want to get hurt. But I think Santana and Ortiz are true bright spots. Those guys, there is going to be a major superstar breakout with those two over the next couple of years. And those guys are a big deal for me. I love watching them work. When Chris Statlander comes back, I think she's got some great stuff. She's a bright spot. Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian are huge bright spots for me. I really see potential even beyond the ring, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. But they are amazing talents. There's so much potential there. Sammy is another one. There's a lot of potential there. Jungle Boy is another one. I mean, you just see him, and there's like, all I can think about is I can't wait to see where they're going to be in 5 years. Like, you think about those times back in the day when Triple H was Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and when The Rock was leading, he had taken over the Nation of Domination, and then you saw them 5 years later where they were in their careers. And you just think about that for these younger guys. Like, there is a melting pot of just raw talent that there's no limits on what they're gonna be able to accomplish in the next 5 years. And it's an amazing.
I think what I love about AEW as a fan is you're not just watching people who are there to make other people look good. Like you said, in 5 years' time, that everybody on that roster is somebody I could see being a world champion at some point. Everybody is there to improve themselves and one day be the top of the company. And as a fan, that's what makes it exciting. So I couldn't agree more. But thank you so much for joining us today, Mikey. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing about the music creation process with AEW and finding out a little bit more about how you got into it. It'd be great to talk to you again down the line. And thank you for joining us, Mikey. Is there anything you'd like to plug before we go? I'm sure you've got a few things, apart from watch Dynamite on TNT on Wednesdays.
Yeah, of course, Dynamite TNT on Wednesdays. We have the actual Dynamite special Tuesday night also. After Inside the NBA, you've got some great matches there. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter anytime. I try to stay as interactive as possible with all the fans. And I'm committed to making great music and having fun while we do it. And listen, I may not be perfect right out of the gate. I may not be perfect today or tomorrow, but I'm always going to strive to be better each day and to give the fans something to talk about, something to listen to, and something to have on their minds that can help them escape from the real world.
Perfect. And on that note, we'll see you next time.